This weekend, Jupiter's Legacy premieres on Netflix. And within the same 12 months of the release of the Snyder Cut, The Boys, Invincible, and a whole host of other reimaginings of the core Superman and Golden Age comic book mythos. It's worth recognizing that Mark Millar has made a career in reimagining and deconstructing the modern superhero. So this week, we're talking not just what Jupiter's Legacy is all about, but we're also talking about the man who created Sheldon Sampson, the Union, and everything that comes with it. I'm Dan Umpton, and this is the Doomcast. Mark Millar's fixation with superheroes began very early. He said that he came up with the story for Superman Red Son in very early childhood and then pitched it in his teens to DC Comics. Some of his earliest comic work was alongside his mentor and fellow Scotsman Grant Morrison at 2000 AD and later at DC Comics, dipping his toes into both Justice League and Swamp Thing. Beyond that, his work at Marvel and elsewhere in the early 2000s heavily influenced movies later on in that decade, as well as comics in the concurrent one, with The Ultimates, Civil War, Old Man Logan, Wanted, Kingsman, Kick-Ass all became source material or direct adaptations. His work ethic is tremendous, and he's incredibly prolific, both in the past and now independently through Millar World. Like Grant Morrison and Alan Moore, Mark Millar has pulled at the threads of American identity and power through superheroes. He's especially put them through particularly gruesome ordeals and idealistic conflict, but very often a running theme in his work boils down to, the bad guys have already won. Now what? Old Man Logan has Wolverine packing up and living as a farmer in Eastern California, decades after a cabal of villains launched an attack that obliterates the roster of available heroes and divides up the United States under the rule of some of them as regional warlords, like Magneto, Hulk, Red Skull. Logan is forced to confront his vow to never unsheath his claws again and ends up wreaking vengeance against virtually everybody from his past. Essentially, Millar often removes characters from their standard setting, puts them broken into a no-win scenario, and then just kind of tries to see what makes them tick when they're in conflict with their essential nature. Kick-Ass, Wanted, Kingsman, all of those feature characters picking up pieces after the day the bad guys essentially won. Even Superman Red Son certainly flips the script on who is looked traditionally as good guys or bad guys, but my point stands. Nemesis frames the villain as being the central character and makes you want to root for them. So even the Fantastic Four run that Millar had, it ended with Dr. Doom returning from spending 60 million years perfecting an apotheosis of virtual magical deification to a point that no writer has ever touched again. But Jupiter's Legacy is a huge inversion of this repeated theme. It presumes a world where the very Golden Age style pantheon of heroes has had a hegemony up unto the present. And the trademark Millar fashion that he uses, he has zero qualms about doing awful and terribly violent things to characters that he'd make you really appreciate a lot. Sheldon Sampson is the utopian, a jingoistic 1920s patriot who loses everything in the '29 stock market crash and then has a vision of a secret island that's magic. And upon traveling to that island with his family and close friends, they're given superpowers and aid the United States in ushering in an era of prosperity and peace, for the most part. And the rest of the series deals with the now even timelier ideas of America First toxic patriotism, the power of celebrity, imperialism, and the failures of capitalism, and the failure of power to exact practical change. Also, superheroes doing drugs and getting murdered. Deconstructing superheroics didn't originate with Mark Millar. Neither did moral ambiguity or ultra-violent, malevolent reimaginings of Superman. But he's certainly responsible in large part for how popular these elements have become in modern comics and entertainment. Jupiter's Legacy premieres this weekend, well, today, on Netflix. And it's an adaptation of one of his and Frank Quitely's most well-received popular graphic novels. And in a lot of ways, it's a point that his career in comics as a whole have been building to. An examination of how our Golden Age comic ideals shaped the 20th century, and where we go now that it's over. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week.